Everybody, I am working on a 3D printed model. Now, I got a couple of things I'm working on, and this is going to go in pieces. I decided I was going to print some SpaceX stuff. In other words, Falcon 9 and Starship. And this was a what the heck moment for me. I found a Falcon 9. I thought it was 1/100th scale. It turns out it's 1/110th scale. 1/110th scale. I wanted 1/100th scale because I found Starship and Super Heavy in 1/100th scale. Now, I'm not going to be really doing a painting on Starship and Super Heavy, and you'll see why in a few minutes. But I am going to do some painting on the Falcon 9, and it's going to be hand painting. And I don't want to seal it or anything first. So I'm going to be doing some experimenting. And one of the ways I'm going to experiment is I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought me some craft paints. 50 cents a bottle's craft paints. I know, I'm a cheap person. But, 50 cents a bottle is pretty good. And went and printed a spare piece of the Falcon 9. And this cost me about 25 cents. So, why not? Just print a little bit here and there so that I can experiment and I can do other things and not ruin the actual stuff. I already got a Falcon 9 printed downstairs. And I want to try painting this thing before I paint that. I'm working on opening this bottle of craft paint while we talk. And I should have done that before I got on camera. But, we don't always plan these things out. We always sometimes think about other things like, oh, I got to work tomorrow. And I wish I could make more money. And why are people assholes? I think about that pretty often. Why are people assholes? Because I sure have met quite a few of them in my life in the last 3 or 4 years. I've also met some super wonderful people. And I mean by wonderful, I cannot say how fortunate I am that I met a few certain individuals. And they have been wonderful and great to me, and life is good and golden. I am going to pause this video and come back in a little bit because I don't want to get this hobby knife covered in this red paint. I'm going to go clean it off. Returned! The world rejoices. Well, except for my haters. But I don't care what they think. I've returned! And I got some haters who follow me on here. But anyhow, we're not going to worry about that. We're wanting to see how this paint's on here. And I'm not really trying to paint this correctly right now. Oh, wow. That's what I was hoping for, actually. So if I took some time and I was careful and I did some proper masking, this will actually work. And that is free-handed. And, it's not perfect, but a little bit of work, I can make that perfect. And, I'm not using the best paintbrush in the world right now, but this is also a blank to paint with and screw around with. Now let's validate my claim on my cost on this. Okay, a kilogram of filament is anywhere from $20 down to $14. Okay, if I buy 10 rolls of it on Bamboo Labs, that comes out to $15 a roll. I know it's $150 to buy 10 spools of it, but stop for a minute and think, okay? If I put a kilogram of filament in the printer and I run that printer, and I've got a Bamboo Carbon X1 Carbon, which means I got a pretty fast printer, and I let that printer run for a week solid, I might use the spool. And not shut down, just run on full speed. So 15 spools would last me 15 weeks. That's pretty long time for printing. All right, now this piece right here weighs probably about 50 grams. So what did that cost me? Well, a kilogram is $15, rounding a little bit. And this is 50 grams, so this is like 1/20th. So what is 1/20th of $15? That's around 50 cents. So I'm not exaggerating my price too much. This is what I was hoping for with this craft paint. I'm going to stop in a minute and clean this off. And then we're going to work on the super heavy who's sitting in front of me. I'm satisfied with that. I got to look at my colors and see what's going on. I am going to mask the other letters. I'm going to take some time. I'm going to get some tape out and mask them so that when I paint them, if I can be a little sloppy and have it look really good when I'm done. But I was hoping for this, and the reason for this is that I tried some experimenting with the Starfield Blaster. I'm trying some more experimenting right here. I tried some experimenting with the Starfield Blaster, and when I hit it with paint and other things, this is what I'm getting. I am getting run-ons, I'm getting blurring, I'm getting the stuff traveling through the plastic. And when I'm using the craft paints, guess what's happening? Keep in mind, I'm also using a 45-year-old paintbrush right now. And it might even be older than that. This paintbrush might actually be almost 50 years old. Amazing, isn't it? But this is one of those tester paintbrushes you get free when you buy the kits. And I know I've had this thing at least 25, maybe 30 years. That's how durable those things were, okay? And if you look at that red paint on there, I'm not trying to do a good job because I'm working with a really ancient paintbrush. I've got some high quality paintbrushes in front of me. And if I were to water this down just a little bit, it will probably do what these other paints were not doing and work on this plastic just fine. That's what I was looking for with this. I'm looking to see if I can find a paint I can put on here without sealing the finish first and just work with. Because, you know, this is the official panel lining fluid from Tamiya. It doesn't work, okay? It's designed to be on a gloss coat and not have unsealed plastic. And when you 3D print, you get layer lines. And you can see the layer lines in here, and that stuff just sucks right into the layer lines. But the pigment on these craft paints is so thick and heavy, and it's not ground fine like the pigment would be on this stuff, that it won't go in the panel lines. And that's what I was looking for. That's what I was hoping for. And again, it's not looking beautiful, but part of that is I'm not trying to do it well. I'm also using a ancient paintbrush that I'm not surprised is this way. If I get a cheaper, a way more expensive paintbrush, and in fact, I'm about to try that in a second. I'm going to go pause this. I know we're going to have a lot of screen jumps. I'll come back in a minute once I clean this brush up. I'll go ahead and get a more expensive brush out, and we'll try it. Now, one thing about this stuff, this is water-based acrylic. It says permanent acrylic paint, but it's got to dry to become permanent. So as long as I clean it up before it dries out, it's pretty easy to clean up. I can let my kids paint with it. So this isn't wasted money. I'll go give them something from the dollar store and say, here, paint it. Or I'll print something and say, here, paint it. And they'll sit there and paint for hours. And, 50 cents a bottle of paint, you can't beat that. Unlike some of these other paints sitting over here, like we got a good old Mr. Color right here, which is probably $5 for that bottle of paint. This stuff's 50 cents. I'll be back in a moment. Yeah, don't look at my fat belly. Currently about 45 degrees outside, 35 degrees. Let me look. Pretty late at night. I'm a night owl, so I'm up late. 40 degrees. There's a dog out there barking his head off. You probably can hear that in the background. That is not my dog. Keep that in mind. That is not my dog. My dog is inside in the bathroom. Okay? He's a real special case of insanity. And it's not his fault. He was abused by some people when he was little, and that abuse was not a good thing. Really, really not a good thing. All right, I got out one of my good paintbrushes. I don't know where I got this from or what it is. Oh, now I know. Yeah, you look at the brand name on that, you're going to know that was not a cheap paintbrush. I have not looked at this paintbrush. It's a God Hand in 4 years, 3 years. So yeah, that's why I didn't know what brand it was before I started using it. We're going to put 50-cent paint on a God Hand. And some of you are like, you're a fool. Well, maybe I'm a fool, maybe I'm not, because I want to see if I could get the black paint out and use a good paintbrush like this and take my time and do some panel lining. And you know what I think I could do? I think I could get away with it. See the red line I painted right here? Now if I were to use black, that would come out okay. And I'm going to try something else. I am going to take me a piece of paper towel. I don't have baby wipes here. Baby wipes, I use those things for everything. Not going to stop recording, just going to yell at the camera. I know I'm rude. I walk away and leave you all hanging. Okay? But it wasn't too far for me to go. The bathroom's right next door to this room. And I just got some water and I'm going to try something on this. Okay, it's what I was afraid of. I'm going to have to try the other side. But the water cleans that up pretty nicely. Now this side is pretty virgin. What I mean by virgin is I have not gotten anything done with the panel lines on this side. So putting paint in here is not going to leave those marks unless it's bad. And again, I'm trying to be lazy and not seal coat this thing. There's a reason for that. Oh yeah, you can't get away with that. It does exactly what the other side did. So, if I want to be insane and panel line this with the craft paint, I have to be precise and extremely careful. I cannot clean up and wipe the paint up. The other choice will be to seal this thing with some paint. Now, we already did some sealing on one item laying around here. It's across the room. I'm going to go get it. Okay, and I used a, I don't remember the name of this stuff, Rust-Oleum paint, I think, and I am going to go ahead and put a little bit of this paint on here with the Rust-Oleum on it. And that was the whole reason I did this. I can still smell the paint on this thing. Okay, I'm about to go clean that paintbrush up because I don't really want it dirty. And I'm going to come in here and we're going to smear it around a little bit. And yep, it's doing the same thing to the Rust-Oleum paint. It is doing the same thing over here on the Rust-Oleum paint. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use my panel lining fluid, I'm pretty sure that's Tamiya. Yeah, Tamiya panel lining fluid, which I've been told never to use on Gundams, but I use it on Gundams. And we're going to put some on here and see what happens. Now, this Tamiya panel lining fluid is an enamel base. Okay? So, if I want to clean that off, don't paintbrush. Behave yourself, please. There we go. So, and you can see I put it on there on the black, and I want to clean that off. It will still stain this paint, but it will come out okay. So, as long as I put some paint, a primer coat on this, it'll be kind of okay. I mean, that's not really okay. The craft paint actually cleaned up way better once that took a moment to dry, and actually would look way better, amazingly so, because the pigment in the craft paint isn't changing the primer coat. This primer, again, it is a sanding, it's a primer / fill paint that was recommended to use on one of the YouTube channels I follow who does 3D printing. And it's sealed that fine. I haven't sanded it. You're supposed to do a light sanding on it, but I didn't do any sanding. Oh, and I just dropped my paintbrush. The reason I'm worried about the paintbrush is I've got a nice shirt on, and I don't want to get any red paint on my shirt, and I didn't. I don't care about the carpet underneath me. It's what we call clown vomit carpet. You wouldn't know red paint hit it at all, because it looks like a clown vomited. Multicolor splotches everywhere. Okay, I didn't do any sanding on this. This paint was to fill. You sprayed on like a primer, but it's a little thicker than a primer. Kind of like Mr. Surfacer 500 or 1000. Then you sand it and you're good, okay? I haven't done the primer on this side because what I want to do is I want to put a little Future on this side, and I want to put some clear coat on this side and see how they work. This didn't cost me much to print either. I like the ship, but I don't like the seam line that goes all the way across right here. That will be a nightmare to fix that thing. You can see it much better on the side of the ship. All right, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to go clean up my God hand because I don't want to ruin this paintbrush. And then I'll come back and we will talk about Super Heavy and start working on it. So give me a minute. The good things about this craft paint is it does clean up pretty easily with just water and soap. Okay, I'm gonna put the little plastic tube thingy back on the paintbrush. Then I'm gonna put its lid back on it. So I have my God hand paintbrush and I can put it back in its storage place over here. And I will let this dry. I know this looks horrible. Okay, this looks horrible. If this hadn't smeared all over the place on here, that would actually work for panel lining. But it looks like I'm going to have to seal this or something before I do anything more with it. Because I tried pens right here. That is a pen. That's not working. Okay, so I'm trying to find some way to cheat this and work on it without doing it properly because I'm lazy. But that's the sign of an intelligence. When you're intelligent, let's put it this way. I've got a physics degree and I've got an engineering degree. Okay. It actually paints in there really nice. I'm using a gold paint marker, but you can see the panel, you can see the layer lines for it printing. That will actually gold plate this pretty nicely. But I have an engineering degree, I have a physics degree. And one of the things my teachers would tell me repeatedly about having a physics degree, especially engineering, is that engineering came about because people were trying to find the easy way of doing a task. So they'd sit and use their brain and think it through and think, what can I do to make my life easier? And they would invent math and all sorts of stuff to get around doing a hard job. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. Instead of watching a bunch of videos who are going to tell me I need to prime and paint this thing and sand it and then start what I'm doing. That's what all the videos are going to tell me. So anyhow, I really like how that paint marker did. That gold paint marker actually looks pretty decent. And the panel lines on that the layer lines on that don't actually hurt it too much. It's going to be a little hard to see on this camera. I got some pretty bright lights right behind the camera. They're pointing at the wall so it reflects on me because the wall is a light blue. Okay, but yeah, that actually came out pretty nice. That is surprising. And it's not going to work on what I'm trying to do with that thing, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, and if I were to take some time and mask that and then hand paint it very carefully, that will be fine. Okay, so I'm going to try a couple of these other letters with some paint, with some masking, and then I'll paint them. Okay, and this red paint, it's not dry and glossy, but I don't need it to be glossy. What I need it to be is for you to look at it and you can see it was SpaceX. I got red paint on my fingers. That'll be fun. I'll get some alcohol, which is right here, and clean that off my fingers. All right, let's talk about what's in front of me right now. I found a model of the Starship along with Starship version 3, along with Super Heavy version 3, the booster. And that's what's launching at the mid-March, near the end of sometime mid-March or the end of March. They're launching Starship Booster 3 and Starship version 3 and Super Heavy version 3. So I 3D printed a model of them, and I used this chromed silk. Okay? Now, if I were to paint this, it would be almost hard to get this kind of coloration out of paint. I would have to seal this and then do an awful lot of work on this. And this is a display model. It is not going to any shows. This is for me. So I don't think I'm going to paint this. I'm going to leave it like it is. Now, one of the things that caught me off guard is this is 1/10 scale Falcon 9. And it comes out to be about 2.5 feet tall when you're done. This thing, okay? This thing's a monster. Because one segment of the model is almost half as tall. Not half as tall, but it's pretty large. The super heavy booster is way bigger than Falcon 9, okay? Falcon 9's engines are nowhere near as big as this. Now, this is a 1/100 scale model. And right here, I got a 1/100 scale Gundam pilot. And there's a rocket engine, and it's as big as him. Okay? This thing is a monstrously large ship. And I had no concept how big it was until I printed it. Okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and start gluing this thing together. And the model's pretty decent. I'll link to the model at the bottom, and I'm going to review the model on my other page. Okay? But the model's pretty decent, okay? This is one piece. It comes with a snap ring right here. You got to glue this. It's not really a snap ring. I'm calling it that because on a car it'd be a snap ring. It comes with this ring because you don't really want to try to glue these too easily. I mean, they're big flat surfaces, yes. I probably ought to clean them a little bit because I use glue stick on the build plate. But you put this ring in here and you glue that together. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that while we're talking here. I keep a pen in my super glue bottles. Yeah, I'm weird. Actually, it's not weird because it keeps the bottle from the spout from drying up where you can't get glue to flow through it. And apparently it still did anyhow, and I might probably have to cut the bottle. No, there we go. There's some glue coming out of that. Not much. But something like this, I don't need to way over glue it because I don't want glue squirting out the edge. Because that will just ruin the finish on something like this. Now, this is silk PLA. And if you know anything about gluing, about PLA, plastic, the silk is very weak. It'll shred apart pretty quickly before it will hold together. And I showed you that in an earlier video with the No Man's Sky spaceship. I just grabbed one of the wings on it and just crunched it apart real quick. And I didn't even struggle to crunch that apart. And I'm going to go and put this on here. Now, one of the problems with this glue is it takes a while to cure. It is not quick. This is that Hobby Lobby glue. Oh, of course, I put glue on it, and now it's like, no, I don't want to go together. There it goes. Okay, this is the Hobby Lobby glue. And because of that ring, it's going to glue together pretty quickly. And yeah, I could probably just leave it like that and stack this thing together really fast, but I'm not going to. I'm going to put this aside for a minute. I'm going to put a little something heavy on top of it so that it will have some weight on it while it cures, and then we're going to start working on some of the other parts. Okay? There are 4 segments like this. This is the top, okay? This top up here, he did key everything together on this model. You can see the key is right here. You can see the key right here on it. He did key everything together, and look at how pretty that is, okay? Those are print lines. That's where it had a support under here, and I pulled the support off. That's what it looks like when the support came off. I'm starting to work on using PTEG as a support for PLA because the two will not stick to each other at all. And once I get there, I'll be able to not have that. It'll be perfectly smooth. Okay? Now, what I've noticed when I've been playing with these things is some of these pieces fit together incredibly tight. Like that fits together just fine, okay? And you already start to see this thing is a monstrously large spaceship. And this isn't even Starship, okay? This is just super heavy, okay? That part fits together really nicely. This part right here fits together really nicely. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw this thing, I was a little afraid that it would print kind of wonked. You know, it printed beautifully. Printed just fine. I'm going to go ahead and glue these two together. And I'm going to put some weight on them. And then I'm going to work on the other two segments over there. And part of that is because those segments are not going to want to glue together well. I've already test fit them once. And you notice I'm test fitting everything before I'm applying glue. I do have enough of the silver filament left over. I could print another set. But I don't want to. This thing didn't take 1 kilogram to print. It took half a kilogram to print. Okay, it took me days to print this. And when I say half kilogram, that's this ship and Starship. And I might put the actual numbers in a video. I might not. We'll see. Alright, so I got the top of this thing on the top part. Now, these holes right here are for the grid fins. This version of the Starship only has 3 grid fins. 3 grid fins. I do have the grid fins here, and we're going to put the needle back in the glue, and we're going to put the glue aside. I do have the bag for the grid fins up here somewhere. They are printed. I will find them in a minute. I just dropped the pin on the floor. One of the things I am noticing as I get a little bit older is I'm getting more clumsy. The other thing I'm noticing is that food is affecting me poorly. I found out a little while ago that I had spent 1.5 years taking medicine that was causing severe depression. So if I'm sounding even better, that's because I'm figuring out what caused the severe depression, and I'm not taking that medicine anymore. It also means I'm going to start getting everything fixed rapidly in my life, and I'm working on it. Because I have some people that owe me an insane amount of money, and they need to be sued. Okay, and I'm working towards that. That'll be fun when I finally get to that point. But I got to make sure I figure out exactly what medication's causing it, because it just stopped them all. And all of a sudden I'm feeling better, and I'm like, what the heck? Okay, now on my other channel I'm going to put some stuff about my diet. But I'm close to type 2 diabetic, and because of that, I decided on my diet that carbs are poison. My brother been after me for years to make that statement, and, well, I jumped on that bandwagon a little bit ago, that carbs are poison, and I eat under 100 grams of carbs per day right now. I'm dropping weight. And I'm feeling better. And if I can drop enough weight, I don't need the medicines I've been taking anymore. So, it'll be fine. And of course, I'm doing this without doctor advice. Which some people will tell me, that's stupid. Why aren't you talking to your doctor? Well, that's a discussion for other channel. Okay? An upcoming preview for the other channel. Last week I put up a video about hate. Because there's way too much hate in the world, and way too many people use hate as a tool to manipulate and deceive and discredit and all sorts of other crap. Okay, and you all, I don't know who you are. I mean, I've talked to a few of you more than once, but no one needs to be manipulated with hate. It's a very nasty thing. And unfortunately, over the ages, people have used hate to manipulate and control. And it's going on right now, of course. Because evil people do evil things. Okay? And I discussed that on the other channel. This week, I am making a video on college student cheating. Because I'm in a position to know more about that than most people. Yeah, I'm going to have to sand those a little bit. The big problem I'm having is this joint right here. There's a triangle piece on it. Let me separate this. Okay, the holes right here for the triangle piece, because they help key it together and they're going to make it stronger, are a little too small, and it fits extremely tight. So what I'm doing is I'm sanding these 2 nubs right here to make it fit better. Now on the other end of the booster, we got 4 of them down at the bottom, so that's going to get even more fun. And I was test fitting this, and I know they don't fit together right. I also know that this part right here fits fine with the part over here at the top, and I'm not gonna have any problems gluing these together, okay? And one thing I had to be careful with, see, that's gonna fit together fine right there. This thing is gonna catch people's eyes from across the room because it's like 4 foot tall at a 1/100th scale. I mean, this thing is a monster. I don't know what Elon's thinking. Of course, I don't know Elon, so I don't know what he's thinking when he did this. But one of the things I am going to say is you need to be careful when you're printing this thing because you want to remove supports. Well, it gave me right here some tree supports. And I didn't know if this part right here was part of the tree supports or not until I really went and did some looking. And no, that's actual piping on the side of Starship. So I'm glad I didn't get heavy-handed and yank that apart. And I did not. So we've got that on there correctly. I already know I got to work on this part some more. And I'm going to do a quick test fit on these two to see how they work. And I don't want to go pushing anything tight because I've already glued that unless I go this route. I can turn it over this way. Oh, I push that tight without some glue, I may not get it apart. And it may not go together correctly. So I am going to have to get in here and do some sanding and some filing before I do this. And what time is it? This video is long enough. It's time for me to quit and go do some other work. So that's something else I've been doing is I've been working an awful lot lately. So I'll come back with a part 2 on this. And we'll have gotten all these sanded up. Okay, I'm not going to get heavy-handed and start using things like this. Okay, this is old technology. I know there's better ones, newer ones out now. I don't have money for those. Okay, I know they make handheld sanders this size now. I don't have money for those. Maybe I'll have money for those by next year, probably. And I don't know how much actual model building I'm going to be doing around here. We'll see. Right now, it seems like I'm doing a lot because, you know, we're talking about painting today. I'm gluing together this. And I don't know how you all feel about that, but a lot of the models I'm doing right now don't have glue to them. Because, well, they don't have glue to them. I mean, paint, they have glue, but not paint. Because they're 3D printed, but I am experimenting with paint because if I ever do get back to it, I'm going to have to paint things. And I'm trying to find the lazy routes. But anyhow, I'll be back later. I'm looking at the time. I'm on a time budget tonight. I'm going to have to get in here. I'm going to have to sand these triangles down. Or I'm going to have to sand the recesses in here. But I think the triangles are going to be easier to get to. And looking at this, I don't know. The recesses might be easier to get to. I don't want them extremely loose. I like that they're tight, but I don't want them so tight that I break things as I'm putting it together. And that's my fear. I don't want to break any of this. Although if you look at this, that's about 1 millimeter thick. It is hollow. What I mean by hollow is when you 3D print, you can select the infill. This thing's printing with, I think, 5% infill, which means it's not solid inside. It's got a structure to it. But it's not going to be the strongest thing in the world, and it's PLA, silk PLA, whereas this is plain PLA. This is going to be almost twice as strong as this, simply because this is not silk. And from watching people, I've watched strength tests with PLA and stuff. PLA is almost as strong as anything else. The only thing you're going to get that's stronger than it is probably carbon fiber. I know people are going to argue with that. But the strength tests say otherwise, and I'll probably do some of my own. I got to do some engineering beams. Okay, because one of my degrees is structural engineering, so if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this with my knowledge of structural engineering. All right, I'll be back. Hopefully you guys enjoy what little snippets I'm throwing your way here and there. Don't know when I'm going to post this. Probably sooner than I should, because, well, that's just me. Y'all have a good one.